Have you been trying to prove somebody wrong your entire life? You feel as if you're in this perpetual offense. You have to prove something, get some revenge, show them that you're not a loser or worthless, and you're valuable, and you're worth people's attention and love and admiration. I know that feeling. I have a very intimate experience with that feeling. And it's controlled a lot of my life decisions. I've made particular paths and calls that would sort of ease that itch, that strong desire. Now, it was only until I understood this one thing, but why I was so captivated by that, why I had to prove something to somebody. What's really interesting is that a lot of our lives are controlled by stories. What do stories comprise of? Stories comprise of images and words. Oftentimes, one can trigger the other, and vice versa. Let's say you're walking in the park and you see somebody maybe presenting themselves as arrogant, cocky, and maybe they get a glance at you and they kind of pass off the energy off to you, and then you get a sense of inflation. Your inside gets angry and flustered, and you're like, what is he looking at me like that for? Creates that instant reaction, instant thoughts, and the words in your mind say, who is he trying to tough guy me for? What is he trying to convey? And then you find yourself caught in this loop. When in other circumstances, someone could do something different and you have no reaction to it. You feel calm. In fact, you almost can look at him and think that individual is probably going through a lot of pain. And this isn't really about me, it's about him. But why does some stories captivate us more than other stories? And that's where the real key lies into what is controlling you. If we dig down lower, beneath the surface, from the conscious to the unconscious, when you dig below the thoughts and words that circulate your mind around a particular story, I need to prove myself. I'm unworthy unless I succeed. If we draw that down, we can get to a place where Carl Jung had classified as complexes. All of us exist with complexes. And an example would be, and we've heard this a lot, inferiority complex. That can give you an idea as to what I'm talking about. Complexes are tight balls of energy that exist within you that contain trauma, memories, emotions. They almost act like their own entity in some ways. And within that complex exists archetypes. Archetypes are primordial and, as again Carl Jung would classify, exist within the collective unconscious. Something that can take over your conscious mind and start to label you as a particular title. I am the warrior. I must compete. I must win. You embody this almost primordial energy in a way. Now, I don't want to get too much into that realm. I wanted to stick a little bit more on the stories, loop patterns. Loop patterns control everything you do. And the question is, can we change them? Can we alter them? Of course you can, 100%. I have done it for myself. And once I kind of found a bit of a strategy for me and refined it and organized it, I now finally teach clients how to do the exact same thing. And the first thing to know is, consciously, you have to say, yes, they can be changed. You can change stories. But first, you have to understand where these stories connect to. Now, if that's too difficult at first, maybe the topic is a little too sensitive. And the first thing you want to try to do is interrupt that loop pattern. Now, how do you interrupt that loop pattern? Well, the first thing is, this is almost going to sound obvious, but don't engage with it. So, for example, when you're in an environment that can create a particular trigger for you, a particular experience that causes you, it hits you in that sweet spot, and then it gets you inflamed. Maybe through, it could be sadness, it could be frustration, it could be flight, it could be all sorts of things, but it puts you in a heightened state a very heightened state of fight or flight. If in that moment, the first thing that pops up are either images, or if the first thing that pops up are words, it's one or the other, often one or the other. When that comes up, if it's an image, allow the image to enter, but then do not grab onto it and ruminate. I usually say dance. Don't dance with it. Because once you grab a hold of it and you sit and you ruminate on it, and now you're integrating it, you're bringing it into your body, you're bringing it into your mind, and then you're finding it a home, and then you label words around it. I've known this all along. I knew I was a failure. I knew people were going to laugh at me. You start to like wrap it up in a beautiful, not beautiful, but in like a beautiful disaster type of way. You wrap it up in this bow. And then once you wrap it up and you present it, that becomes the story, and then you reinforce it. And then what happens over time is that your brain will start to pay attention to it in the real world. You'll start to look for it. You'll start to look for it in order to avoid. You're in defense mode constantly as a way for your inner working mechanism to protect. And so if you begin the practice of interruption, catch it before it starts to digest. And it happens in the same way with words. When words pop up in your mind and they start to say self-defeating language, then in that exact moment, allow that word to pass through and let it move forward. Don't engage with it. And the irony of this practice is the less you do, the better it works. And I know that doesn't sound like it makes sense. But if you grab a hold of it and engage with it, it sits and it sinks. And if you try to, flex it, internally resist and flex, it just finds its way in. You have to almost allow that to pass through you, allow the emotions to course through. And what I always say is in the midst of that, you want to have slow breathing cycles. Slow inhales, slow exhales. Do it as many times as you need to. Don't engage, relax, let go of control, and then you will notice, maybe in 30 seconds, maybe in a minute, there won't be an exact time, but at one point, it will pass. It will pass. And then what you want to do is interrupt it further by moving along, getting up, doing something different. Not in a hasty state, but continue on with what you were doing. Maybe you're working on something. Maybe you were hanging out with your friends. Whatever it is, redirect that energy, redirect your focus. And then reward yourself for that. That was really good. Good job. Good work on interrupting that pattern. Because some patterns are very difficult. And so you want to give yourself that credit. Don't hate on yourself. Don't judge yourself. I always say curiosity and adventure is the way you want to tackle anything that is of the inner world. Always, always curiosity and adventure. And then nested within compassion, love, and affection. And then as you practice that day in and day out, it will start to get easier. It will start to get stronger. The muscle, it's funny, the muscle of letting go and not interacting with it will get more efficient. Now, obviously, life has a lot of challenges and some things will be very difficult. And sometimes, it'll breach through. The loop pattern will breach and it'll start to go. You might feel a little bit embarrassed, a little bit angry about yourself and say, oh, why did I do that? I shouldn't have done it. I made so much progress. Again, you do not want to go there. The minute you go there, it's going to set you back. You want to forgive yourself. Always forgive and move forward. There is a healthy amount of criticism that is important for you, a healthy amount of standard. You need to have them because without borders, without internal borders, then, how do you avoid delusion? How do you avoid getting too far off? And so you want to make sure you give yourself a range, but you have to give yourself forgiveness as well. Always give yourself forgiveness. I was way too harsh on myself for a long period of time until I figured out that it's through the compassion, the compassionate father figure element that is going to allow you to actually think about what you could have done a little bit better, forgive it, and then move forward, not continuously lash on yourself. If you guys want a little more information, you want to go deeper on this topic, all this is from my Rule of 3 method. I developed this during my time of identity loss. I went for a particular dream in my life, wanted to be a world champion. Didn't work out. I woke up one day and lost the passion for it. But while I lost the passion, I lost who I was. I identified too much with that. And, there's a lot to unpack there. And I wish there was a community that can be involved in, that understood that topic, that felt what I felt. I couldn't find it, so I am beyond excited to share this with you. This is a purpose and a deep meaning for me to help you guys rebuild purpose in your life, rediscover who you are, take you towards a healthy ego and soul integration. And so if you click that link below, and it'll take you over to my website, and then on that website, I have a free guide that I want to give you guys for joining the community, and it's a monthly newsletter. And it gives you the information, a basic toolkit as to how you can begin the process of rebuilding, rediscovering. And of course, I send out more information. All my Rule of Three I give away for free on my newsletter. I don't hold anything back. And it's an absolute pleasure for me, even if it helps you a little bit. That is beyond good. Well, thank you very much, guys. Look forward to seeing you in the next video.